Friend, today's guest is my friend, Kelly Mackin. She's a researcher, workplace culture strategist, and author of Work Life Well Lived, The Motives Met Pathway to No BS Wellbeing at Work. Her book isn't just another fluffy guide to balance, it's based on real data, real motives, and real talk. Kelly's research cuts through the noise to uncover why only 16% of people are actually thriving at work and what the rest of us can do about it. She's here to talk about her book, the process, all the behind the scenes, but of course, purpose, fulfillment, company culture, and how to finally build a work life that actually feels good to live. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kelly and I met, was it 3 years ago now? Maybe four?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Time flies. No, I
Flies.
think it might have been 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Time flies.
So we met at a book writing retreat that I used to work in, and Kelly had just all the energy in the world, but she was so keen on she had a really good idea of where the book is going to help her and her business. And at the time, I believe it was still kind of a startup, which I feel like you're still in that stage. We're all in a startup stage, let's be real. But you kind of had a good idea of how to use the book, which I really appreciated, especially a nonfiction book. But before we get into that, I have this question for you, which is, obviously you've worked in this space of team culture, team love, all that good stuff for some time. Was there a moment though where you were like, okay, all this work, all this experience, I need to write this up. I need to write this up. I need to put this in a book. Was there a moment for you that something like that clicked?
I don't know if it was one moment. I think it was compounding of a few moments where honestly, I just felt frustrated and annoyed when I would see information and advice out there that I knew from my research was not true. And I went, this is part of the problem of if we don't even really know what it means to thrive at work, then how are we going to get there? And as you mentioned, our research shows so many people are not thriving at work. Only 16% of people feel they have that health and happiness that they really deserve. So I feel like those emotions were a signal to me. And I went, what is this trying to tell me? And it was, this is a great way to get our bigger message into the world. A book is a great way to do that. And so that was kind of the catalyst that really pushed me in that direction.
Beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about your business, your work, and what you do to help companies?
Yeah, so I am the CEO and co-founder of Motives Met, which is a platform that empowers people to create their best work life and workplace with no BS well-being, emphasis on no BS. So a big part of our platform is our research, which is the foundation for everything we do. But from our research, we developed a human needs assessment tool that really uncovers what each person uniquely needs to thrive. Because what you need most at work is going to be really different than what I need most. But that's not really how the world approaches it. Whether it's experts or social media influencers or TED Talks, everyone kind of claims this is the golden ticket. Or if you want a happy team, here's the 3 things you got to do, right? Those articles are all over the internet. But we've discovered that that really is inaccurate. And we wanted to help people uncover what their unique well-being is.
Your book is built around this idea of there's no universal definition of well-being. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So we uncovered that there are 28 psychological, emotional, and social needs, what we call motives, that are at the heart of what thriving at work is all about. And we've developed a framework that makes this really easy to grasp, and it's colored and animated and fun, and it's on our website, motivesmet.com. But for example, we have passion and purpose as motives, work-life harmony, appreciation, variety, innovation, self-esteem, flexibility, autonomy. But again, there is no universal hierarchy of needs, even though the world constantly is trying to push, hey, this is what you should want and need, or this is what your team wants and needs most. So we all have our own personal hierarchy of needs, essentially our own cocktail, our own unique blend out of these 28 of must-have motives, nice to haves, and then like, I don't really care about it. And so I love to see the shock on HR's face when I tell them, not everybody cares about purpose at work. Some people don't want meaning to drive everything they do. They go, hey, I have work-life balance. I work with amazing people. I'm really good at what I do. Everybody leaves me alone. That's what I need and want most. I don't need my job to be deeply meaningful. Where someone else feeling what they do really matters for their bigger purpose is the number one driver. So that's what we really help people understand and be able to really see their own blind spots, because it's difficult sometimes to truly know what matters most to us, especially given we're all hustling, we're in the busy day-to-day grind. We're not necessarily being mindful of these motives, particularly the ones that are our top well-being and motivational drivers. So even though I helped build this assessment tool, which uncovers the top 5 motives driving you today, I didn't necessarily know what my top 5 motives would be. I had a good guess of 2 of them because they're tied to my values, but one was actually a complete shock to me and kind of like a slap in the face because I'm an entrepreneur and security came up as one of my top 5 motives. I was like, what is this? I'm an adventurous soul. This is not me. But when I sat with it, it was like I had to have this confrontation with myself to go, oh, actually, you're leaving the comforts of your career behind to go start Motives Met. And that is scary and it's unknown and it's uncertain. And that was my weakest motive. And I realized it's holding me back because I kind of had one foot in, one foot out, all this doubt. So, really taking my own assessment really helped me go, okay, I have to really change my mindset and develop an action plan around my motives so that I can have my greatest well-being at work.
Love it. So how did you come up with those how did you come up with like the tools, I guess you could say, or the reframe to sort of overcome your own, I guess, securities, the thing that the very thing that the assessment came up with. What was the thing that you leaned on to overcome it?
Well, really, when you take our 15-minute online assessment that does come free with the book, we give you this awesome report. And so really it was looking at the insights we had developed in our report, which give you these amazing reflection questions that you're probably not thinking about, tips, and also a way to develop your motive story, which is huge. We all have a story behind why these human needs matter so much to us today. They're tied to our values. They're tied to our hopes, our past work history, maybe our big goals in our personal life or our professional life. And when you really develop your motive story, you have such greater self-awareness, and awareness is power. It's really that first step. So by going through kind of the exercises we have in this report of developing my motive story and why this matters so much to me in this current season, it enabled me to go, okay, what are the small habits? What are the bigger changes I'm going to make? I developed a framework for risk. What is the risk I'm willing to take? What's the risk I'm not willing to take for that security motive specifically? But I also had to kind of work on some unconscious beliefs. And again, we give you a lot of good stuff to help you do that. One of my other top 5 motives is future success. So it went, hey, if I have these big dreams and goals, I shouldn't feel super comfy, right? Like I don't want my security motive to be a 0 out of 10, but I don't need this motive to be a 10 out of 10. If I'm feeling some of that kind of uncertainty, that's probably good, because if not, I'm not going big enough. I'm not dreaming the dream I have. So how do I just kind of change my mindset to go, that's okay? Because we find with our motives, a lot of times acceptance and compromise can create a lot of peace and contentment.
That's so powerful. I love that you called it Motives Met, because it's like we don't think about our motives. I mean, in that way, like being met, it's like an endless sort of desire, right? It's like deep, but I love that they can be met if we truly understand them and maybe at least assess them and see how we can view them differently. Very well put. So what's been the most surprising insight people discover about themselves when they take the test? What's interesting to you?
Well, I love when I hear other people share their blind spots of, oh, I
Mm,
didn't really realize that was such a driver. Or I kind of knew in the back of my mind, but having that conscious awareness is different. It shines a
mm,
spotlight on what matters most to you in this new way. And really, just hearing people's motive stories is probably one of my favorite things, whether it's in a team
yeah.
workshop we do, or people like sharing stories of there's a husband and wife who work together. And this just happened last week. So it's top of mind. And they were saying they have no overlapping motives. They realized they had this really big epiphany of why they sometimes butt heads in their business.
Mm,
And it made so much sense. And just kind of having a conversation around neither one of us is right. All these motives are worthy. There are no favorites, as we like to say. We have to embrace motive diversity because we can tend to really have a lot of judgment around these needs that we don't realize. Of course, how I
mm,
feel is how you should feel. What I think is most important is what you think is most important. So when you can kind of understand that it's just driven by different needs and why sometimes we have friction, whether it's internally or externally, that really allows us to have a new perspective and compromise in
mm.
different ways and communicate better.
Oh, that's so powerful. I love that. Thanks for sharing that example. I worked with my wife briefly back when I owned an apparel printing company, and we are so great, same wavelength, more or less on everything. And then the work kind of created tension. Like, it wasn't like terrible or we were yelling at each other or anything, but I could just feel it. It was just like, oh, there's some things that are very important to me in this space that aren't very important to her in that way. And so I love that you brought that up because that made me realize, you know what? I don't really want to work with my wife, and that's okay. Like that's I
Yeah.
love her and I cherish her, and it's also the other thing is I know what she's really passionate about. Like she now we're down in Tucson, Arizona, and she does theater and she's a stage manager, and that's like her thing, man. Right. And so it was just like it was just the person was just in the wrong environment. And I too, in a way, was in the wrong environment. So let's be real, right? And so we both sort of kind of had this unlock of like, oh, no, we should like really do our thing, like whatever that thing is, and then like bring ourselves and joy to that thing. And then when we come together, we have that thing, that relationship, that love, that bond. And man, it was so beautiful because in my mind, like I'm like, oh yeah, like we're like the couple that works together and owns a business together, and those are all great things. Like again, the stories, but it's like, but in reality, like it doesn't need to pan out that way. It doesn't because we are technically still partners in this thing called life, like, and
Yes.
that's a big enough thing, right? So I love that this assessment really breaks down to the little pieces so that it's a little bit more tangible for people to take action on it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it gives
so.
you validation and permission. That's
Mm,
another big thing of people say sometimes like, "Oh, I feel validated in my choices," or "This is giving me confidence it's the right thing," or some people grow up in a family or in a culture where it's you got to be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, right? Security is put on a
Tell me
pedestal.
about that.
Or
Yeah.
they're growing up in a household very different where it's purpose is on a pedestal. You got to find your one true calling in life.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be
Right. Right.
miserable
Right.
and so it's kind of like it gives you permission to go, I'm allowed to be a human being with my own personal human needs. And I
Mm,
need to honor, protect, and strengthen that. And that is the way to
yes.
happiness. It's not going to be perfect. All 28
Ah,
motives aren't going to be thriving for you at any given time. I call it
right.
work happiness delusion. And that's what the world kind of pushes on us. Just have work life balance.
Yes.
Everything will be great. Or, just find your calling and everything will be fabulous. Yet I know a lot of people who work in their calling and yet are very unhappy at work. Why? Well, their other four
Mm,
top motives are probably not doing real well. And that's what we tend to see, right? It's about this collective grouping of your
mm,
top needs. It's not about any one thing. So that was I love that example you gave because it is
yeah.
sometimes just reinforcing that we're allowed to be who we are.
Yeah. My God. When I, growing up, a lot of insecurities, a lot of need for validation. I grew up an Arab kid in America. I mean, come on, right? Like I had, and the doctor, engineer, architect thing, totally true.
Yeah.
But I realized that, I was always like, in a lot of ways, and I've taken some of these assessments, right? Like growing up and stuff. But I realized my biggest tension was that I felt like I was, like, am I Middle Eastern and American, or am I American and Middle Eastern? And like, what does that mean? And like, there's like this deeper like search for meaning, I guess. But then, I can't remember. I was either listening to something or somebody brought it to my attention that you're human first and foremost, and you're gonna have these desires, these things, whatever, these pulls. But like, what if you're both? What if you are, what if these labels are just labels, but really you're just human who just so happen to move and learn a new language and learn to live in a different culture and an environment? But think about it. Like, human beings have always been traveling, always been like learning to live in the different atmospheres and the different. And I'm like, oh my God. It just like opened up my mind and being like, and it freed me of this tension and get more clear and focused on like, oh yeah, like I'm good at these things, but I want to be great at this thing, which is like just
Yeah.
have great communication, which is something like I always tell people, like the first 2 years of me living in America, I didn't really speak English, and like I wanted to say stuff, but I didn't have the words. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have, and so that always became a thing in the back of my mind. I'm like, I'll be great at communicating my ideas, whether it's through art or writing or whatever it is, creatively, And so I think that became my thing in the back of my mind. And I'm like, I can take that and apply it to really anywhere as long as I get to do that. And that was the unlock. So I love how you approach this work, in that the balance comes from you understanding your human needs and like your like where that is met, your motives. And that's where the well-being also thrives from. So well put, so beautiful that you also go and teach people how to do this and support companies and structures in that way. So you jam-packed this amazing book with all these insights. So how has the book helped you? Like, how has it served you? What kind of doors has it opened? I know that's kind of a jam-packed question, but having published a book, that's no easy feat. If y'all don't know, it's hard to publish a book. I don't care if you're doing it independent or traditional, like it's still hard.
Yeah.
But you did it, and I remember you sitting there working through it. And I'm always impressed by people like yourself who just sign up for something really difficult like that and follow through, because it's hard. It's a journey. But I want to know sort of like, how has it worked out for you in having written it and now sort of post-publishing?
Well, first of all, thank you. It is. I will say, I always tell people, I think it's the hardest thing I've ever done, at least professionally, but it has also been one of my biggest sources of joy in my career as well. So it's both and. But the book really, one of the things we wanted the book to do was drive credibility and awareness of our business. And I feel like it's really done both. A book helps you be seen as a thought leader in your industry, whatever that may be. So I feel like there's so much credibility that I gain in really anything I do with clients or webinars or speaking. And it's really opened up the door in the speaking world. Not everyone who speaks has a book, but a lot of people do. And so that is definitely something that stands out. It's definitely something that people look for. And even from a PR perspective, it's really helped in getting in publications like Business Insider, of being able to say you're an author and you have a book that really, again, positions you as an expert. So I think just that credibility piece alone is huge. But it also has grown awareness of our business. And, not everybody needs to write a book with a big business goal in mind. But I think the people who write a book just expecting that the book is going to be, you know, a huge income stream or a huge just business in itself, are going to have a wake-up call that they don't love. So I think that's something you also did a really good job of reinforcing, and a mindset I think I definitely went in with is this book is going to help sell and grow these other existing things we have, like our assessment, our team workshops, our research, our leadership coaching. And it has definitely helped with that as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and it's because, I mean, that in reality, when you pull back the curtain, that's what you actually want to do, is do the trainings and do the things. Like, I feel like, let's just say the book does, and if you're out there and you're listening, let's just say your book does sell 10,000 copies, 100,000 copies. Like, that's fantastic. And yeah, maybe that'll bring you some great income. Fantastic. But even then, I'm willing to bet that if you do, now your price for doing those workshops or doing those speaking engagements or whatever actually increases, because the amount of people who are going to want to have you on is going to be a lot higher, right? So it's like a win-win situation. But if you just solely, like you said, like a lot of people like solely go to like, I want to sell as many books as possible. And it's like, that's fantastic. The crazy thing about books is there's just not that many readers today. Let's be real. Like, there's a lot of Americans. There's over 300 million people here, but a good 30% of people are the ones that are reading books. Everybody else is either on podcasts. They're consuming. They're not. I'm not saying they're dumb. They're not saying whatever. Right? They're consuming content, articles, whatever. But they're probably not just picking up a book. One, because maybe they just haven't trained themselves to do so. Maybe they don't prioritize it. Maybe they don't like to read. That's fine, right? So I look at it like, well, you know, it's okay to make the thing for the 30%, but like also make a couple of things for the 70%. That if they see you long enough or time and time again, it'll probably lead them to these other things. Now, you be honest with me. Like, I know I've sent my book out to like leadership conferences and things like that, and I've gotten hired. And sometimes the person doesn't even literally read the book. They're just like, "This is fantastic. I checked out your book and like think you'd be a great speaker." Has that happened to you?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I've been on a ton of podcasts, gotten speaking engagements where people have not read the book. I mean, I think, like you're saying, a book is a commitment. You're asking for a lot of people's time. So even sometimes it's like, I'll offer to send people my book, but I try to do it in a very not pushy way of like, if you send someone your book and you expect them to read that, do you know actually what a huge ask that is? Because it's a huge chunk of people's time. So I love that you kind of push. There's this 70% out there who just aren't book readers. / today, you almost just don't have to be one to get so much of the knowledge out there. Between AI, articles, social media content, you can learn so much. Podcasts, you can listen, you know, like you can go on a walk and listen to a podcast. You can scroll for a little bit and get bite-sized information, but get the heart of a lot of big messages. You can watch TED Talks online. So, you know, if you really think about, it wasn't that long ago where really to get true good information, you needed to read books. Today, that has really changed. So like you're saying, I think, and that's one of the things I actually wish I had done. My book's a pretty big book. I wish I had made it half or a third as long, because I think more people would have read it and even purchased it. So that is one thing.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such an awareness thing, right? Like, obviously our first baby is like, we want to jam pack and we want to make sure that it's like all these things out, you know. I love that you share that though, because not very many authors share that. However, there's always room for book 2 and 3 and 4, you know that. But I always tell people like, okay, so you have this incredible wealth of knowledge, right? And it's all powerful, really, no matter how you look at it. But why don't we divvy it up, right? Let's divvy some up for your website. Let's divvy some up for whatever. Because you need a minimum of, like they say, you know, 5 to 7 touch points so that people can get to know you. And eventually they'll get to your book. But you know, the other thing about books, especially today in our world, and the way things are sort of have shaped up, is that a good book actually comes through social currency. Like we almost read a book now to not feel left out of a conversation, not feel,
Mm,
especially professionally, right? Not feel like, oh, you read Atomic, I gotta read it because everyone's talking about it, like, oh, what's in that, It's one of those things, it's like an interesting moment of transferring that knowledge or that book. But a lot of times, even then, even when you get it through that social currency sort of wave, people will get the book, buy it, put it on their whatever, or like read through it a little bit. So like I think, and what I love is like, I think more people are interested in people. People love people. And it's like if you wrote something good or whatever, people want to reference you as the author and how their work connects to you, right? It's like, so for example, oh, I'm a team lead who does the teamwork culture, but I hired Kelly to come in and share, do this training with us, whatever. And I got her book for my team. And like now in my company, I have this social sort of currency of like, I help people improve. I'm a manager you want to work for. So like even my reputation increases by bringing you on, right? And so
yeah.
it's the same thing. I'd rather have the author come and do a thing than just give my team a bunch of books. I think the increase of what the value of the book is you as the author. And I always tell people like, and you do such a good job of this. I like want to iterate this. You make videos that are so good. Can we talk about um, how do you overcome that fear of judgment? Because it comes up every day for me. And I tell authors, I'm like, put the camera in your face and talk to it. Like I'm telling you, it's a game changer. How has making those little videos for you? Because I know you've done it literally over time. Like, I love watching them. How have you doing that helped increase your visibility and maybe even opportunities? I don't know. Can you share a little bit about that? Just making videos.
Yes, I struggle still all the time with the confidence and wanting, and that's one of the other, I have like a few, book regrets, I'd call them, and that's okay. It's part of life. But one of the things I
Okay.
wish I had done is really focus more on marketing my book from the day I was going to write one, and not even again marketing my book, it's marketing my idea. It's marketing me, it's marketing my brand, it's marketing my company.
Yeah.
So I did kind of start with videos very slowly, and I'd kind of start and stop and feel icky about it and all the things you're talking about, but have gotten to a much more resilient and confident place, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always have like 5 core desired words of the year, core desired emotions, kind of how I want to feel. And one of them is seen. And
Mm,
this mindset shift has really helped me, and I'll come back to it. It's this idea of not being caught up in how many people see it, how many followers you have, all the things, but really going, I want to feel seen, and I want the people who need what I'm doing to be able to see me. If someone
mm,
is really looking for how to be happier in their career and not listen to all the BS out there that I prove isn't true, or they really want to make an impact to create a thriving culture, can they find me? Can they see me? If they're Googling articles, if they're on LinkedIn, right? If they're even on like TikTok, or is my book going to be there? Am I going to be there? And measuring
yeah.
myself against showing up and being seen versus kind of followers, likes, and kind of just how I feel about posting has really helped me to be more motivated, to be consistent. And I hear
Yeah.
from people too sometimes like, oh, it's getting so much tougher on all these platforms. And I go, it is, but then it's only going to get that much tougher. Because I remember years ago, it was the same thing. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's getting so competitive now. I don't even know if I want to do it or it's worth my time. And then a year later, I'm like, wow, it's that much tougher. I wish I'd stuck with it then. So I
Right.
think a lot of it is mindset and kind
Mm,
of figuring out what you need to believe and think about that's going to make it easier for you.
mm. I appreciate that so much. Adding to the mindset, I think it's a heart set too. I know this is weird, but it's an emotional thing too, right? It's like it's emotional because not only do you want to be seen, but in a way, it's a human thing. We all kind of want the validation, and that's fine. And I say, look, just keep talking to the people that want to show up for you. One or two likes ain't going to determine your worth or value. We know that. But really reminding yourself of that and continuing to like create those snippets and things. It's honestly, I know a lot of people say it's much more challenging. It's much, it's much more competitive, or it's a lot more like it's more noisy. And I'm like, that's beautiful. What that actually means is you just need to sharpen your knife, right? Which means your message just needs to be clear. And that's the reality. What I realize is with a lot of authors is that they're mixing this opportunity to be on social media with, well, if I put myself out there, or I put my video out there, or my thing, then, and if it doesn't get traction, then it doesn't really work. So should I even try it? Right? And it's like, no. The act of doing it, right? The act of doing it is actually what signals to people that you have courage. Because 9 times out of 10, those other people are thinking about doing that thing and they're not. And when they see you do it, they say, oh, they must have that thing that we should hire them for, right? Like we should, right? Like they must have that thing that I want to deploy with my team, with my work, with my whatever. They have that courage to put themselves out there. So they must have the courage to come out and speak in front of my team, or be a keynote, or be a whatever. And I always say something like, man, if I can get you in a room every day to 200 to 500 people, would you ever refuse that? And out of the 200 to 500 people, maybe one or two of them would want to work with you. Would you ever refuse that? Like, most people won't. They will not refuse it. I'm like, great. Then start a YouTube channel, because I promise you 200 to 500 people a day over a span of time will come to your YouTube videos and get to know you and recognize you, which is why we're doing this podcast, which is why I love, that's another thing that breaks that sort of camera shyness and all that stuff, is doing these things, showing up for these things. And so you've just done a good job, though. I'm going to give you props. I know sometimes you don't want to give yourself props. I'm going to give you props, though, because I have seen your LinkedIn videos. They are great. You do post often. You do step into that light. You are seen. I see you. That's why you're here, right? And that's another thing. I put people on the podcast who are choosing to be seen, right? Like, that's a big one. And like, who do we want to work with the most? People who we see, people we trust, people who shared some stuff that actually made sense. Now, there's probably 10 other people that have the culture of work team stuff that they don't necessarily talk about it, though. I don't know them. They're kind of invisible. I have to go look for them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is kudos to you, because you have stepped into that light and you are seen. I'm so proud of you for just like going there, sharing your wisdom, sharing those videos, and hopefully they're doing a lot more than getting you just booked, like really spreading your word out there. So it's very powerful.
Oh, thank you. I love that you said it's like people getting to know you, because I know that's happened with me. Like someone who just booked me for a keynote, they had gone to my LinkedIn profile multiple times and they're seeing you can pin your best stuff at the top. They're looking and they go, oh, she's charismatic. She can speak, right? You're showing, and they feel it's depth of familiarity. They feel like they get to know you, see what the topics are. And then when they hop on a call to talk to me about doing the keynote, they're already feeling a lot of good energy and knowing more of who I am than someone who they go to their LinkedIn profile or they go to their Instagram profile and there's nothing there. And like you said, sometimes people you don't even know the impact you're having. Just last week, I got the nicest message from someone, because my Instagram is very slow to grow. We haven't done a ton with it yet, but we're just consistent. And we're growing it. We want to get to enough posts where we can maybe do some ads or grow it even more. But it was such a nice message saying, hey, I show my team these videos. Some of the ideas and research you throw in here have really made a big difference. And I've used it to get my boss to understand why well-being at work really matters. So thank you for doing them. It was the nicest message. And so sometimes you feel like you're speaking into the void, but you're not. And you never know once you're really consistent. I have a really good friend who was blown up on TikTok because she was consistent for 4 months and cracked the code. So I think, that consistency, people say it a lot, but it's true. If you're consistent, even think about 5 years from now, If you were consistent on social media and wove it into your work in a way that wasn't too difficult for you to just at least be consistent. Let's say in 5 years, it got you some really big speaking things or a really big audience or sold a course or whatever it is, you'd go, wow, I'm really happy I did that. But people want that immediate gratification. And if they don't get it after a month, then you go, this isn't worth it. It's not working. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, with authors, and again, people discover this at some point in their journey, especially authors, right? Is that, oh man, I should have been posting about this months ago or whatever, right? At least sharing my ideas, sharing my concepts, seeing what sticks, seeing what resonates. And people don't really like to build in public. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, build your thing in public, share your ideas. I know, like, you don't have to share the depth of things so that you think your stuff is going to get stolen. I promise you, no one's going to go take your idea and go write a whole book about it unless it's like that good, which maybe it is, maybe it's not, but maybe you can share components of it that, resonate with people in a way that doesn't give the full spectrum, to test your idea. And I think that's what I'm doing now with my newsletter. Really, it's just testing topics, things, ideas, to seeing what really sticks with people, and so that I can like formulate the next best chapter of my book, right? The next sort of outline it in a way that really resonates with people. So I know when I launch it next, right? When I launch my next book, it's received. It's at least like thought about or shared, right? And yeah, I guess I'm just trying to take my own advice here, right?
Yeah,
Is that
very
like just
smart.
share, build in public? Yeah. Very good. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what's one thing that you know for sure, if you like the next time around that you would do this, whatever it may be, if there is a next time around, what is something that you would add to your formula as an author?
I would take whatever time I thought my book would be done or I wanted it to be done, and I would add a good chunk of time onto that. There is something to be said about sometimes we got to hunker down, spend a lot of time towards our goal. I was in a book launch lockdown, as it affectionately became known, with my friends and
I
family.
remember.
My house for 33 days, basically. Like, I literally was just like, I'm
Yeah.
getting this final draft done, and that's okay. And it is an emotional experience of highs and lows writing a book. But I think I know I would have been able to enjoy the journey, even write just a little bit of a better book if I had allowed myself more of the creative space, which would have given me a better emotional experience. So I would definitely just pad the timing. You're doing one of the hardest, biggest things. At that point, just pad the timing.
Don't rush. Yeah.
Yeah, don't rush it. And it did take me still 2.5 years. Like, it was a process. And as you know, I had to switch publishers. But it really worked out for the best in the end. And so that would be a big piece of advice I have. The marketing piece, another aspect, again, you can get so laser focused on writing the best book. It doesn't matter how good your book is. It just doesn't. It doesn't, because if people don't find it, it does not matter. And so also, if you're thinking budget on top of timing, whatever budget you have for this book, right? Whether you're going self-publish, hybrid, whatever, add a big chunk to marketing, because otherwise it doesn't matter. Then wait to do the book. Wait to do the book when you can give it the launch it deserves. We did have marketing dollars set aside. It wasn't enough. And then we kind of were haphazardly doing things here and there and adding things where I wish we had kind of from the start gone big with people who really could have helped us and, integrated our marketing efforts and gone bigger. So that would be another piece of advice. And really think about your title. I mean, I'm kind of a unique situation. Work Life Well Lived is a great title. I've got a lot of great feedback on it, but the subtitle, The Motives Met Pathway to No BS Wellbeing at Work. Well, Amazon now with their algorithm and AI bots was shutting down my book from the entire ads platform because of the BS. So it was months of back and forth, months of lost time on Amazon ads, which is really important as an author to do. So just like really think about your title. It's such an important part of your book. And there's some people who are so set, as I kind of was, even on our subtitle, which was different than this one, of like, this is what it is. Be open to exploration and creativity and hearing other people's input as well on your book title, and take the time to really think about it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That means the world to me. And because you've sort of lived this now and understand it very well, your thoughts here really matter. And for those authors listening, or, you know, up and coming authors, like, this is real advice, man. I mean, I preach this stuff daily. You know, you follow me on LinkedIn. Like, I'm daily with this, right? But it's so important. And it's like the things that need that constant reminder, because not only is your title important, not only, you know, every aspect, which I believe your entire book came together beautifully, all aspects of it. So I think, you know, just give yourself credit for that. I'm sure you have, but I want to give you credit for that. But there's a lot of people who, you know, will spend 2 years on their book, but then like 2 weeks on the book cover. I'm like, maybe you should reverse that, because because
it's another
no one's going to open that book.
Very important.
No one's going to open that book. So like, even with our, like, you know, I've been studying YouTube for, you know, 4 years now, right? And I'm still getting better at it. And it's like, once I realized, like, oh, the title and thumbnail of this thing matter the absolute most. Like, it's the thing that matters the most. And then the video, I was like, oh, this clicks for everything. The title of your LinkedIn, the title of your website, the copy of, like, all these messages that you're putting out into the world matters so much. So thank you so much for like really hitting the hammer on that. Hitting that with the hammer, like, it really resonates with me, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see authors not get the traction that they deserve. Because again, I've seen so many people like you go from zero to like launching, and it kills. And they'll reach out and they're like, "That so wasn't worth it. I wish I hadn't wrote the book." And I'm like, "No, that's not where you should be right now, especially on like launch week." Oh, it kills me. But then that changes, because they do realize that like somebody will reach out to them like, "Oh, I read your book. It was so good," and it gives them that little boost of life. And it's like, yeah, it's good, man. It's, you know, but yes, you should have spent a little more time on LinkedIn. You should have spent a little bit more time on this, and that's okay. We just learn the things, and it's never too late. And you did the right things at the right time. So I'm proud of you. Always shared your journey. That's super powerful. This is why I really wanted to have you on the show, was to kind of share the encapsulation of what it is to actually be an authorpreneur, and how to leverage your book and work. But on that note, is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we close out?
Actually, I had 2 more pop in my mind of things.
Yes, tell me.
I would also think more about Amazon reviews. Can't believe I forgot that one. It's a beast. It's tough. Because if you think about it, when in your past, before you were an author, did you just go, "Oh, I'm just going to go to Amazon and just leave all these reviews for all these books I love," right? Never. So, I mean, you know, we knew this. We had a launch team, you know, we were at like 86 reviews. We really want to be at 100, but you have to work for those reviews. And the sooner you can get advanced reader copies out, that's another really important thing in the timeline, and really build that community. That is so important. And then I think the last thing is just deciding what you do think is most important for you in your book, because it is tough. There are a million things you can do to market your book, and it can feel really overwhelming. And of course, again, you want to market it, you want to put funds towards it and time. But I think just really deciding for your book, for your industry, for your natural abilities, where do you want to focus? Because sometimes if you try to do everything, you get nowhere. And one of the things that was surprising that I really am happy I did was book awards. And again, this won't pertain necessarily to everyone's book, but I've just gotten a lot of feedback, and it's been really cool to be like, this is now an award-winning book. And it does kind of make it stand out to go, this is like a high caliber book, because
Yeah.
becoming an Amazon bestseller isn't that tough anymore. And it's a really kind of overused term. But if you can say you have an award-winning book, I think that even puts you in a different category. And that's one thing at
Love
one point,
that.
I was like, do we even do that? Like, does it matter? Who cares about? But that was one thing
Yes.
that's made a difference in a way I wouldn't have thought. So
Beautiful. What a great set of add-ons. Thank you. Kelly, it's been a pleasure not only getting to know you, watching your growth and work, but just hanging out with you today. Seriously, friend, you're awesome. Congrats on all the work you're doing. I know your work and startup, it's a hustle, it's a grind, it's a thing, it's real no matter what you're doing. So I just appreciate you constantly putting your message out there, showing up, and I see you. So thank you for showing up. Appreciate you.
yeah, no, thank you. Again, I wish I had done more of all the things you're helping authors do, like when I started my book journey. So what you are
Aw,
doing is
that means a
so
lot.
needed in the world and so accurate. So appreciate you very much.
Aw,
I know a lot of future authors out there do as well.
I appreciate that so much, Kelly. Thank you. I didn't pay her, by the way. I didn't pay her to say that. But thank you,
Swears,
Kelly.
swears. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. It means the world. And guess what? You're doing it now, and that's all that matters. You're doing the right things, and we all live and learn. But thank you so much for being on the show. You're special. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.